everybody to the Woden Valley Community Council public meeting. Thank you very much for coming. I'd just like to say too that while we do have people on Zoom, we do find it really difficult to run hybrid meetings. So the meeting will be the people in the room. If you're on Zoom, if you can't engage with us, I apologise. We've tried, we've failed. I'm not sure whether I'll do a better job this time. Hopefully you will be informed if you're on Zoom, but I can't guarantee that you can participate in any conversation. So, Woden Valley Community Council acknowledges the Ngunnawal people as the traditional owners of this land and their continuing connection to land and community. We pay our respects to their cultures, ancestors and elders past, present and future. And we too join with them in enjoying this fabulous community and environment that we have here. So today we have a pretty exciting agenda actually, because we have got today the Westfield Master Plan, the Hellenic Club Master Plan, and here we are at the Southern Cross Club, and I understand that they too will be doing a master plan as well. So we thank you for coming. You guys are the, and ladies and guys, you are the really big organisations in our community, and what you do has the potential to influence our community for decades to come. So thus we have a big turnout tonight. We haven't been getting these sort of numbers lately, I can assure you. There is very big interest in what Westfield and what the Hellenic Club and what the Southern Cross Club are doing. So, without further ado, I'll just admit anybody else that might be there. We are being live streamed. Okay, got it. I would like to just kick off with telling you what we've been up to lately. So the Woden Valley Community Council, we sort of have two streams of work. One is our community staff, we run events. One is the advocacy for the outcomes around our district. Our district, mind you, is not only our town centre, doesn't just service Woden. We host it like we host the hospital. It actually services a far broader area. It services people moving through from Tuggeranong. It is actually Western Creek's town centre too. It services the inner south. So, and as you would know, the Hellenic Club, you have members, 50,000 members from all over the place. It's not just Woden's. We just host it. So, I'd just like to show you what we have been up to, if it will work for me. Please let it work for me. I wanted to show you some of our pickies. And if I can't get them to go big, well, never mind. Can you see that on Zoom? Oh, well, can you see it on Facebook? That's the whole idea, that people can see it. So, move that out of the way. So I'm supposed to have all these little icons down the bottom. That it's not quite right, is it? What about we do that? So we have had a number of events lately. We had this fantastic event at Mawson Ponds. Thanks to Caroline for coming. She is the convener of the Friends of Mawson Ponds. That's our water feature that we have. It's a sediment pond down the road, but we don't say sediment, we just say it's our Mawson Ponds. And we had a big event there, and we had heaps of people. It was really terrific. And if I could only get the photos up, they're all there. I can open some. So that was the Brindabella Chorus singing. There's the pond, you can see it there. That's our water feature. I'll have to be pretty prompt about this. Here's the committee with our green hats, so you could tell, so everyone could see who was hosting the thing. To go and see. I'll just pick out a few. This one was, so after the week after we had the Friends of Mawson Ponds, a huge crowd. We had 4 choirs, we had young people playing drums and electric guitar, and we had a blues trio. It was outside, we brought in a generator, it was fantastic. This one, the following weekend, we had the Neighbour Days. On the 27th of March was all the Neighbour Days. So this was the Chifley Neighbour Day. We also had the Farrow Neighbour Day. We had the Swinger Hill Neighbour Day. And we had the first one. So, you know, we're starting to develop a series of events. That was our second Mawson Ponds. Our next Christmas carols will be the third. Well, we have to cancel the second. The Swinger Hills had a couple of Neighbour Days. And we even had our first ones up in the Towers, up north in the Tower area. We had a Neighbour Day up there. So around the districts in the local shops, people love their local shops. And we've been having some great events at our local shops. Shame this isn't going to roll through for you to show you some, but I will have to move along because I can't sit here and open them all up. That will take forever. There's some ladies from the Towers. They're the big towers. That's the Oaks. Oh. So we're actually starting to get smiling faces. I used to take pictures of people's backs because we couldn't have a face in it, but now it's like, I'll ask you, we want to see smiling faces. And what we want is livable. We want our town centre to be livable. We want our Mawson, Southlands is becoming such a hub of activity. People love Southlands. It's very multicultural. It's got a Middle Eastern feel to it. People love Coolum Court. People love Curtin. So because there's activity on the streets, we want active streets. Active streets make people feel safe. When I was at the Towers for their neighbourhood day, they've moved into Woden, they're trying to be walkable. They don't feel safe of an evening because there's nothing. They're like, you look around, you walk into the town square and it's like, of an evening. We want public spaces. Our town square is at risk of 28-storey buildings right on the perimeter of it, all the way around it's been zoned. It will overshadow, it will be cold in our climate, it will be windy, and people will scurry through there. We are not attracting people to the core. We want green spaces, trees, we want community facilities. We've lost them all. We've lost our pitch and putt, our basketball stadium, our pool, our bowling greens, our tennis courts. The only thing that we have left is the squash courts. Phillip Oval is still there, but it's a gated facility. You cannot, all these people in the Towers, they cannot get into Phillip Oval to kick a footy around. It's gated, it's locked. The only thing left out of all that recreation precinct is the squash courts. We want public places for people to meet, places where they don't have to spend money. Not everything should be commercial. We always hear that for our well-being, socialisation and activity, sporting teams, all that sort of stuff is really good for our well-being and our mental health. And we want that stuff here. Okay, so that's me, and without any, now let me just do one more, and then I'll pass over to Adam. There we are. So this was the Chief Minister. In 2016, this was his statement of ambition. Oh.
It's just, yeah, one sec. It's just this, the screen share was paused. Yes.
Oh.
So people in the meeting couldn't see it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here doing the tech.
Yes.
I wouldn't have had a clue.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, back to the statement of ambition. So he's talking about some federation thing. And this is the Chief Minister in his, I think it's his statement, State of the Service. He does annually. Anyway, in 2016, he said, as a government and as a community, we must build on that feeling and create that future together. Cities don't succeed by accident or by leaving things to chance. They require design, good governance, and great collaboration. And that's what we want to ask about tonight too. While everybody has their master plans, all the developers are building their towers, everything's done in isolation as far as we can see. We can't see where the great design for the town centre as a whole, where the governance, where the collaboration, where everyone is collaborating to pull this off, because, you know, we have got so much potential right in the centre of Canberra. All the buses hub in here. We could be pulling people into the town centre and supporting the small business. We could be doing it a lot better than we are. So without any further ado, we shall ask Adam from Centre Group to come and now. Oh, okay. You can't. All right. Now, centre. It's a tricky business, isn't it? Okay, I can get to my email. I can. There we are. There we are. Ta-da. Hello. Let's see if we can stick it into a file. Oh. If not, we'll just stick it. I have got so much stuff, as you can see. Public meetings, 2022. Now, who's us? We're here. Live presentation. Is that it? Okay. Woohoo.
Thank you.
No worries. Don't trip on that.
Thanks, Fiona. Look, let me start by just also extending my acknowledgement of country and to all elders past and present, and introduce myself. I'm Adam Actistrut, the Development Executive and Asset Manager for Westfield in the ACT. So I work for a company called Centre Group, and we own and manage all Westfield shopping centres around Australia. With me is my colleague, Craig Smelly. Craig is the Centre Manager of Westfield Woden. And I'm very, very thankful for the opportunity to come and speak with you tonight. So I've been given 15 minutes sharp. So I'm going to start my stopwatch.
And then questions after
and
that.
then we'll take as many questions, Fiona, as you'll allow. So let me just see how I move forward. Yeah, I think we can.
Does that work?
Yeah.
For that?
Hang on.
Do you want me to move it? You tell me when to move it and I'll
That's
move
okay.
it.
I might just fit it to screen if there's a way to do that. I think it'll be okay. Let's go across. Yeah. So look, just a very quick introduction about Centre Group and our purpose. So the reason why we exist as a business. We are all about creating extraordinary places that connect and enrich the communities within which we operate. And just hearing some of the, I guess, language that Fiona used right at the start, I think there's synergy straight off the bat, you know, particularly when we talk about our hope to be a responsible and sustainable business. We want to become essential in people's lives. And there's a sense in which we want to be the valued social infrastructure of any community within which we operate. So we do have 42 Westfield living centres right around the country, and about 80% of Australians live within 30 minutes of a Westfield. So we are obviously embedded in people's lives. One of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight is the way in which our business is changing. Historically, there's been this concept of the shopping centre, and we are consciously moving away from that. We don't internally refer to our assets anymore as shopping centres. We refer to them as living centres, and it's a very intentional change in language. The reason why we're doing that is because we want to be essential to people's lives, where people can live, work, play, and have recreation. Ultimately in Canberra, I think, speaking frankly, there's been a view historically that we are big concrete boxes that look in, and part of the work now is how do we uncouple and look out. So similar to the project that my colleague Anthony is doing in Parramatta, we basically want to turn them all inside out. That's the idea. And that'll be a very, very long-term ambition. And this is just the start of the journey. I just want to be really clear at the outset, what I'm not planning on doing tonight is presenting a finished master plan. That's not what I'm planning on doing. What I'm planning on doing is taking you through some principles that we hope to apply to a process, a master planning process that we'll hope this community can feed into, give us feedback on as we continue to develop and iterate what's best for Woden. Now, in terms of the Living Centre and how it's changed, I just wanted to show you some examples in our portfolio of how we're trying to move away from an old school shopping centre. So all of you will know the Bradley Dining Street precinct. This is Grease Monkeys, you know, great local icon. And I was just having dinner there this evening, you know, that place is firing. You know, it's a beautiful place to go and have a meal. Again, the activation that we've seen on Bradley Street. Similarly, I wanted to share with you an example of what we're doing at Westfield and Bondi. This is with some of the students from Good Start Early Learning. We've effectively put a rooftop garden at Bondi, a sense in which the community can come, they can plant, they can participate, particularly the kids, in terms of bush regeneration, bush tucker, and growing our own vegetation. This is Westfield at Parramatta, and one of the reasons why I wanted to show you this is really around activated frontages. And one of the big issues, particularly at Westfield Belconnen, that you'll note is we've got a very small portion of the centre that is activated onto grave. As we plan the new Westfield Parramatta, you can see that we want open frontages, we want it to be transparent, we want it to be breathable, and we want it to be walkable. This is an example recently of Mount Druitt, our ELP rooftop garden. Again, lots of community space for people to come and families to share without having to spend money to be able to come and just enjoy the environment. Again, here we've got Westfield in Liverpool. This is just an example that I wanted to show in terms of the mixed use nature of our living centres moving forward. So we've got an ability to work, an ability to live, an ability to shop. Again, active frontages embedded into the community. This is the sort of montage that Liverpool will look like in about 12 months' time. And again, we want it to feel like somewhere you'd want to be. We want it to be open and activated. This is an example in Melbourne. This is our Doncaster asset, again, very open, and a carousel in Western Australia, one of our ELP precincts. So just, again, this sense of moving away from what a shopping centre has looked like historically. You know, this is one of our flagship projects at the moment, again, to show how we're changing. And the reason why I wanted to show this slide is I think the way that we can continue to redevelop Woden, it's not just in the big things, like 101 Market Street, which we've got here, which is effectively the old David Jones building, which has been converted into luxury retail, office and residential. But it's the small things. You know, how do we make sure, like this example here in Melbourne, how do we make sure that we're giving all local operators an opportunity to show their business, to activate, to make places interesting, and to really bring spaces alive? So the master planning process, this is where we are. I don't need to show this room, this slide. We're very, very conscious of where we sit within the Woden ecosystem. We're big believers in Woden, and we want to invest in Woden. You look at the economics and the demographics of Woden, it has such potential. Amazing potential, and it does need the social infrastructure to go with it. And as I said at the outset, one of our core pillars of our strategy is to be seen as essential social infrastructure. We are the largest landholder in Woden, so we understand that there's, I guess, an onus on us to take the community on any journey. So what we're doing in terms of this process is we're looking ahead, and this is what Woden will look like in 5 years' time in terms of just what we know from a DA pipeline perspective. So at least another 4,000 units. There's several commercial opportunities. I haven't got the Hellenic opportunity up here in full, probably because at the time I wrote it, wasn't out in the public domain. But what I'm most excited about actually is what a CRT looks like and what a light rail station looks like. And I think they will be genuine game changers for the Woden community. So when we think about our design considerations and how we sort of go through a master planning process, one of the first things we look at is pedestrian movement. And we have done a lot of work on door counters. We've done a lot of work going out, understanding from our retailers how does a community move through our mall? The reason why we do that is because we want to design the most effective future pedestrian accesses, particularly linking east to west and north to south. At the moment, it is quite difficult to move freely through our mall, and we think there's an opportunity to move forward. You know, the other big opportunity that we've got is really around active frontages. So this is Westfield Woden at the moment. You'll see that approximately 20% of our living centre currently has an active frontage, and we think there's opportunity to do more. You look at Bradley Street here, our new dining precinct, and just how successful that is. Again, you know, opportunity for us to add to that. Equally, our vehicle movement, and this is again just to give some context of our thinking. So all of those inputs lead to our design principles, and I'd love to get feedback on our design principles, whether you think we've got them right, whether we've got them wrong, change. But really, we've got in the current state, under vibrancy, diversity, and the urban context, we've got huge opportunities. So we do need more active frontages. I think Fiona was talking about that earlier with me.
I think it is Bradley trying to do this.
Right. We don't just like retail, we'd like living, recreation and working space, and we obviously need to respond to a new urban context. Oh, I'm muting.
Mute everyone.
Yeah, if anyone's on mute. So then I'll just keep going, so I know we're conscious of time, but in terms of the principles, I think that we do want to improve the connectivity. Sounds like my 2-year-old. Isla, be quiet. She's upset because I didn't tuck her in. We want to improve the connectivity east to west and north to south. We want to ensure we've got as much active frontage as possible. We do want to create a town, a pedestrian-friendly town centre. We want more local living and working community spaces, efficient vehicle access, and an attractive public realm. Again, just whoever's not on mute, just kindly suggest that you mute your computer. You know, it's funny, I was in the town square this morning, and I do feel like there's a huge in terms of reinvesting in to that particular town square, particularly when we think about light rail, we think about CIT, we think about the huge opportunity to create just a beautiful, I guess, pedestrian open walking track that comes up and really activates that space. I mean, I've heard people mention numbers around how many students will be at the CIT every year, and I think it's sort of several thousand students. Given that, I think we have a real need to make sure that we're investing accordingly. So this is the first project and the only project that I'm going to show you for today, because it's the only thing that we've decided that we want to pursue subject to feedback from the community. And this is the Bonner House East office opportunity. And this is sort of the first peg in a master plan that we hope will go across the whole site. But again, all the other considerations in terms of future projects, we have not landed on anything, and we're just starting that process, which I've shared with you. But the sort of first project, which actually predated the master planning project, is the Bonner House East office tower. And really what we're thinking here is we want to be able to revitalise Neptune Street. And at the moment, for those of you who know the Bonner House East building, it is a vacant, tired building. It does sit in a position on our land holding. That means that if we add density, we won't be doing any solar damage or negative solar impacts on any community space. In fact, it will predominantly be, nearly all be, apart from roads, our land holdings. And we do think that there's an opportunity to take Woden to the next level with an A-grade office tower. So this particular development is 16 stories, has a GFA of about 20,000 square metres, and we are targeting federal government or territory government tenant. In terms of what it looks like, it's a Cox designed building, and we think it's beautiful. We've done a lot of work on the facade and the articulation to make sure that it responds to its urban context. And I genuinely think it's the sort of building that I know that Centre Group will be proud of, and hopefully the community will be as well. On the ground plane, we've been very careful to open everything up. So we want it to be completely transparent. There'll be retail, cafes on ground floor, end of trip facilities, and ensuring that it responds to the urban context. So for us, this is a project that we'd love to be pursuing and investing in as soon as possible. the other thing just to talk about quickly is the CIT and the light rail and some of the advocacy that we're doing back into government with regards to that. And this is just one image that I wanted to show you in terms of the positions that we've taken with government. We met with the Chief Minister last week. We met with TCCS, the Planning Department, and major projects today. And really what we're trying to ensure is that this vision put forward by government of a fully pedestrianised Bradley Street comes to bear. So Sandra Group are very, very supportive of this vision, and we want to make sure that it happens. Currently, in some of the reference schemes here for the CIT campus, there's loading docks going out onto Bradley Street. We're suggesting that there might be better places for those loading docks to go in such a way that we can ensure that Bradley Street gets fully pedestrianised, and indeed over time, as we go through our master plan, we've got a whole bunch of sites which are just car parks, multi-storey or at times even just on-grade car parks. These are ripe opportunities for us to invest in both community infrastructure and future developments, whether they be built to rent, office, hotel, or other recreation and retail. So from our perspective, and again, this is not an image that I'll show you now, which is locked in stone. This is a kind of a concept only. This is just a concept. The reason why we've been showing this particular image into government is we would like all of this to be activated. If you think about Bradley Street down here, which we've had a lot of success with, why can't Bradley Street continue to be activated all the way down and around? So if you're someone coming off the light rail, coming into the CIT or coming into the centre, you can have a fully pedestrianised experience and a fully activated frontage the whole way around. And this is an image that comes from the Territory Government. It's not our image, but we're completely on board with this vision for what Westfield Woden should look like and all the ancillary land around it. Ultimately, we will need to think about how we can make that particular block, the Neptune Street car park, more beneficial to the community over time. And that's what the master planning process is about. We've not landed on any decisions in terms of what that will be, but we've got principles. So I guess in summary, really the kind of key messages that I'm hoping that this group might take away is that Centre Group is very, very keen to invest in Westfield Woden. We have a set of principles from a master planning perspective that we'd love to take feedback on. We haven't got all of the solutions. We have one particular project that we think makes sense and would like to pursue as soon as possible. But the broader land holdings, of which there are several, give us opportunity to do many other things. We've been canvassing, feedback from the community more broadly, and it does feel like build to rent is an opportunity. We will be exploring that, and we're obviously the sort of company that's got the balance sheet and the potential to do something significant in that space, should it be something that the Territory is able to encourage in the forthcoming budget. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. So Fiona, I think I've spoken for exactly 15 minutes, and happy to take questions from anyone as they come.
Right, I get to start. So we're not anti-development. I'll just make that clear. We do want development. We just want it to be done well. I have a question about the town square. It is dear to my heart.
Yes.
Will you activate your side? Because you've got the sunny side on the town square. There's nothing active on it at the moment. No cafes, no restaurants, no bars, nothing.
Yeah.
You've got Kathmandu. The door is locked.
Yeah. So Fiona, I think it's a great question. I look at that from a kind of a placemaking perspective, that the whole square, and all I can say is that it's ripe with opportunities. We raised the square with the Chief Minister last week, and he was in fierce agreement. Again, I don't want to jump to conclusions about what a master planning process will spit out, because I don't want to undermine, I guess, a process that we want to take the whole community on. But safe to say, if our principles are active frontage, if you've got a community town square, if you've got retail, which quite frankly needs to be reinvented, looking onto that square, I'm fairly confident that the outcome of our master planning process will be reactivating that. I mean, from my point of view, as an idea, why wouldn't you have restaurants, sort of fronting on there? Obviously, that particular three-story commercial sort of building that you're referring to is quite tired. You know, there's an opportunity for a new front door into the mall. There's an opportunity for a whole range of partnerships with the government on that. So, yeah, I think it's a good question. I think hopefully the process will give us the right answer as we move forward.
And as we do go through the master planning process, there are things we need to look at, like wind mitigation, overshadowing the town square. Wind is one of the things that people will come up with and say it'll never be anything, it's too windy, because the towers are tall and they reach the wind up high and the shaft comes down. So we've never been able to look at wind mitigation, so maybe there is a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. On the back there?
Sure.
So you don't mention, so you're building accommodation for these places. You don't mention anything about family friendly apartments. You don't mention anything about social or affordable housing that you're going to let build. Rents and bills in rural America, that's good property. If you want to do big corporations access to rent, it does tend to be rent slave, which are not to buy. Also, it sounds like you want to exclude positive access from a lot of your locations, take away parking and those sorts of things. So I can't see anything in there about ensuring that positive access.
It says here we want to provide efficient vehicle access. So yeah, there's just to be really clear, I think the piece on family-friendly apartments completely support. From our point of view, build to rent is an objective of the government that we would support if the government pursues, and there's obviously affordable and social components within that. In terms of vehicles, there's no plan to reduce the amount of vehicles in terms of parking currently on the site.
And then, you know,
Yep.
So solar access, I noticed that in work, which is the building right up the road, no room for large shade trees. So is that going to be addressed?
Yeah, look, I think there's only one image of an actual proposed opportunity which does have trees and it does have articulation back from the streetscape. This is quite a large articulation back, actually. I think it's more like 14 metres. So I think your point around how we articulate buildings, how we bring beautiful architecture into any, and look, let's be honest, Westfield Woden has an opportunity to improve its architectural contribution to the streetscape. I'm going to say that as politely as I can, Craig, I'm sorry. But like, I think, you know, Cox have won several awards globally in terms of their articulated facade systems. And that was one of the things that drew us to using them for these concepts. So I'm completely with you in terms of street articulation, setbacks, wind controls, 100%.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd like to just pick up a couple of those points. Family-friendly apartments, we are seeing the apartments that are getting built in Woden, we will have 70% of them will be 50 square metre one beddies. They are really small, and that is the majority of the apartments that are going in here. So we're very sensitive to that. We want 2 and 3 beddies with, you know, that families can move into, and that attract people to downsize. Parking is a major issue. People are very sensitive about the parking. We're just losing parking like crazy. And the width of the pavements, you know, we had a development, it is so big, 800 apartments on 1 hectare, plus a hotel, plus all the ground floor retail stuff. They removed the mature street trees so they could build it, you know. So we're very sensitive about the amount of trees that we're losing to put in, and it feels like with the small size of the apartments, the amount, you know, 4 towers on 1 hectare with 800 apartments and 50 hotel rooms, it's like we feel like it's town cramming. We're just cramming it in. The feeling is that all it is about is getting as much yield as possible, extracting as much value out of the block as possible, and the people are left to the side.
Yeah.
So that's where the environment you're coming into.
I completely understand the context, and
yeah.
I think, you know, the one thing I'd say from a Centre Group point of view, we are long-term owners of assets. Right? We're not a developer who comes in and flips and turns and sells. It is not what we do. We own assets for 50 and 100-year periods. We think very long term. So we are not in the business of coming in upsetting a community, flipping a few apartments out, making a quick buck and moving on. That's not what we do. So we are trying to be very, very considered in terms of how we think about built form and in terms of how we think about placemaking. So, I mean, I totally get where you come from.
Caroline, former MLA, great supporter.
Listening to your presentation sounded like, for me, listening to a parallel reality. We've been, this ward has been flooded twice in 30 days. The UN has said we've got about 3 years left if we want to make a difference from a climate change point of view. That your development doesn't appear to address any environmental issue. And you did just say you're 100-year perspective. On that perspective, what are you planning to do to reduce your impact, to live with the change in climate?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question. The sort of figures are not on the top of my head, but I know that we do have a commitment towards net zero, and there's a range of, I guess, sustainability and environmental initiatives that Centre Group as a corporation is pursuing. Craig, did you want to make a comment?
So with that, we work a lot with environmental impacts in the centre on a day-to-day basis. We measure it pretty much daily, our impact. And we have, as Adam said, we have a Centre Group policy to commit to a net zero target. As part of that, that's not just solar or things like that. It's water, with energy, waste, everything to get to ourselves to a net zero target. So we're actually ahead of our target right now as a company, and moving forward, I feel we're always moving in the right direction from that point of view. And the same will go with the development.
You said the same will go with the development. Can you say more about that? What is, are you looking at the life cycle impact of those huge concrete constructions?
Look, it's probably a technical question that I'm happy to take offline, but in terms of you know, the Green Star and the neighbours ratings and all of those sorts of things, you know, we will be aiming to get this sort of top tier from that point of view. So again, very happy to talk afterwards, very happy to give more detail as needed. Yeah.
Okay, next, I just want to point out to you that we have a couple of current MLAs here. Marissa.
I had my hand up first before anyone else, actually, Fiona. I had my hand up.
And up the back there is Emma. They're our two of our current MLAs.
Very nice to meet you.
Yeah. Okay, Nora.
Is that above the existing Westfield Woden or you need to ask for it?
As in where the site sits. So that particular building, if I can just move back, is sitting where the current Bonner House East commercial building is.
So where Bradley Street is, and there's the commercial, the building between the two car parks. Sorry, so where the car parks are, it's the building between them there. So right now, currently, that's a basically a vacant building.
Yeah.
Chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the chocolate shop's here,
Yeah.
and the gym's underground there.
So that's the original one, and then that's next to it.
And that's, yeah, so right now there's an empty building there, and then that would build
Why does it
So
propose?
what happened to the original Woden?
this part here. No, we're not touching anything we currently use at that.
That is from Western Creek, who comes to town.
To get down to the nitty-gritty, you can only do things on the land that you have a lease over. And you're depending quite a lot on cooperation, collaboration, particularly with the government. Now, it all sounds great. I have no problems with design principles at all. What I do have a problem with is the fact that if you look at the Bonner House one, for instance, you've
Yes.
already got the DA in on that, I understand.
It hasn't been
But
submitted
it's
yet.
at the bottom of the screen anyway.
Yeah, there's two. Yeah. Not quite, almost. At the time of writing, I thought that.
As I said, despite your best intentions, you can only have an influence over the areas over which you have a list.
Yes.
Depending on other parties, either other nearby owners and the ACT government, to come to the party about the risk of that. Now, that requires a lot of influence and a lot of collaboration.
Yes.
So really what we're looking at is an ideal, and whether or not any of this comes to fruition is dependent on that collaboration
Yes.
and cooperation. I've noted Fiona's question on the town square and that non-active frontage. There's one little bit entrance which is on the street
get the names of streets where you've got the doctor's place opposite. Sorry, but that works quite well. The receipts and there are lots of little places. You know
Yep.
the main entrance?
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Up on Korea Street.
On Korea Street.
On Korea Street.
That's it.
Yeah.
That seems to be working quite well, but I don't know whether that's outside your land.
The seat's just outside the entry were you talking about? The seat's just outside our entry.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's us. We installed them last year for that reason.
Quite a lot of people do congregate there or sit there and have their lunch and that sort of thing. But it's only a small place. But if you can use within your lease some small places like that,
Yep.
it will gradually alter the feeling that,
Yeah, it's
that
really good
people
feedback.
have about the whole complex.
Yep.
So I think what I'm saying in essence is it sounds good, sounds okay, except I noticed there's no little green areas around by the house. But you're depending a lot on other people, so you've got a lot of work to do. So you need to get some allies,
Yes.
like the community council and some of the other owners, to get this going. Otherwise, it's just going to die a death.
Yeah, so Pat, I agree with everything that you said. I think, meeting with government today and last week, the feedback is how can the development community work more closely with each other, but equally how can agencies work more closely with each other? Because I've got to tell you, it is a very complex and bureaucratic process in terms of bringing everybody together. Notwithstanding that, we understand that as a major landholder, we have an obligation to be, I guess, people who bring others together. And so we know that we can't do it by ourselves. It's partly why we're here. It's partly why we're taking feedback. It's partly why we're meeting with the government. So we want to work with the entire community.
If the agent change, then we're going to get something happening.
Sure. I mean, I think that the light rail and the CIT is the agent of change. I think that there's been enough come from government already. It's about now government getting out of the way and letting the private sector respond to that investment. Doing it with the community, us having a social license to do that. But I agree, we can't do it by ourselves. 100% agree. Yeah.
I just quickly say, as a 20-year customer of Westfield Woden,
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Yeah, it's great.
I find it a really rather depressing place.
I was going to say, just wait before you.
Yeah.
That is the general feel.
It's a good point. It's the centre's 50 years old this year from its first being built. And we, as a group and internally, operationally, we know it needs an ambience upgrade inside. We need new tiles, painting, everything like that. And that as we move forward, that's my job as the operational centre experience lead to push Adam as part of these developments as to how we upgrade the existing centre along the way. So we've already done several things in the last 12 months. Bradley Street, for example, we're putting seats in. We've had the lights redone. Out on Carina Street, we put the tables in because that's what our customer wanted. Now we replaced the shade sails. We fixed up all the garden beds. I'm not sure if as a 20-year customer, you've probably seen them change several times, but we fixed them up so they're actually less collecting rubbish and more attracting customers. So we as a centre group, as a centre team, that's how we're impacting our customers, trying to fix those little things on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. And then when the opportunity comes for the developments and the future plan going forward, that's where we put in as the voice of the customer, just like we're talking now, to get the things that the customer wants that we think are visually appealing to our customer.
Anything specific you'd recommend as a 20-year customer that we could do?
Well, I mean, less concrete.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a common piece of feedback.
Yeah, it's not the only setup.
I was going to agree there. I would like to see a lot more wood rather than concrete.
Yeah.
Especially in seating. I'm in a small minority. I'm a disabled person. And you are one of the few centres that actually provides free scooters.
Yes.
However, with my shitty lungs, I can't get to the centre of the centre to actually get one.
Right.
So if that facility was closer to the entrances,
Yes.
if you could increase the number of available scooters,
Yes.
you can get smaller lithium ones that are much more manoeuvrable.
Yeah.
And they don't last as long, but you know, plenty
Yeah.
of time to get around the centre. They are wonderful. but
No, it's good feedback. And we look at our we look at our scooters every year, and we generally get them fixed up every year, so they're no problems. But yes, we have a central collection point. But if you've got an account with us, I'm assuming, all you need to do is call ahead, and we'll bring it to you.
Trouble is, you can't
Unless
always
it's-
plan your life back.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And over the last 2 years of COVID, I've literally not gone there. Unless something's right on the edge of the centre, I don't go there.
Fair.
I
Let us.
do all my shopping anymore because I can't get around.
It's good.
There's been, I find a lack of, better and cooler for this, soft seating so that you can take a break in between getting from A to B to C to D. That doesn't exist much in Woden. There's always metal seats, and I've got back problems from car accidents.
That is a great point, because that's what I'm spending money on this year to change that. We've actually changed the lower ground seat, metal seat. I know the single ones you're talking about. So we've changed them out.
Coats and little pillows
Yeah.
and things like that. 'Cause
Yeah.
I can't.
They're great points. You
It's-
can take those ones on
Yeah, we'll
board.
check it on. Yeah, we're looking to change them now.
Catherine, time shooting through.
Yes, all the hard services and the water collection, water runoff, the heating of that whole area, is all the concrete. So what sort of steps we can take to, alleviate all the concrete services and the heating of that huge concrete?
Yeah, look, it's probably a question that's a bit big to answer for tonight, in the sense that we obviously have a pre-existing structure. And so we can amend that structure, we can make changes. It's costly to do that. We need to do it in a measured way. Part of this process is hoping to answer those questions over time. So things, for example, like softer seating, better ambience, more natural timbers, all of these things influence how we think about built form. But you're right, these are the challenges that we need to work through.
We'll go to David and then Ian. David is the CEO of Basketball ACT. We want facilities in our town centre.
What surprised me when
Yeah.
I asked, I am conscious that other Westfield developments have incorporated outdoor basketball, skate parks, that sort of thing to gauge you decrease time in the area. You haven't mentioned any of that within this redevelopment. Is that something you're considering?
Absolutely, we're considering it. And there's at least 3 places that you could put something quite special. But I think what I'd love to do is actually work with the local sporting groups around what you need, and then we'll see what can happen. Because I think some of the examples that you've mentioned, the one that comes to mind is what we're about to do at Westfield at Chatswood, where we're effectively taking level 6, which is a fairly underutilised car park. We're turning that into 2 public basketball courts that are sort of multi-purpose, purposefully built with softer gradients such that disabled basketball can occur on them. You know, there's some sort of retail going around at a wellness centre, but really that's open for the public. And as we talk to Willoughby Council about that particular initiative, it's making a commitment in terms of how much time we can give back to the community. But then equally, we need to make sure that it's commercial in nature because we're building it. So there's an opportunity for our retailers to pay for access and those sorts of things as well. So how can we do that together to get an outcome that works for the community?
Yeah, because I find myself, I love swimming.
Yeah.
I go to Tuggeranong and then I go shopping down there. The kids love basketball. We go to Tuggeranong, then we go and do our shopping. We spend all our time in the community facilities and shopping in Tuggeranong. We don't even come to Woden anymore.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I think from our perspective, I just want to be clear, we're not making any commitments tonight in terms of specific things, whether that be basketball courts or pools or
Oh
anything.
no, we're going to have it all.
No. It's more, how do we go through a process
Yeah.
to determine what we can do, taking that feedback on board. So love to reach out after this.
Okay, we'll go down to Ian Mackay, CEO of the Canberra Southern Press Club, where we are
Right.
now hosting the meeting.
One thing that Fiona did very well, and maybe from Western Creek's point, we all have our master plans, and we're going to hear from Lennox tonight and yours, but if we all just have our individual master plans, we're not going to deliver the best results for the community. And would you be up for the challenge of actually trying to got 3 major landholders, and the only one missing really is government with the rest is here. And so isn't the best thing to do for us all to try and work on a master plan rather than just your master plan, our master plan and the next?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the role of government. So, sorry, let me answer before. So absolutely, should private developers be working with each other? Absolutely. And speaking with the guys from the Hellenic group tonight, we'll be sitting down with each other and talking about how can we integrate. Equally, I met with Drew this afternoon from the SLA. I know he's got some plans on a land release. How can we integrate? How can we work with each other? It's all informal, right? It's on the private developers and on the private landowners to informally work with each other. Absolutely, we should do that. To the extent that government has a view on master planning Woden, we'd welcome that. We'd love to be part of that. And really, in the absence of that, we'll continue to reach out as best we can in a collaborative fashion. But again, welcome any direction from the territory in terms of what they want Woden to look like.
We need a new master plan for the whole centre because the old one's 2015 and it's just not working for us. It's got too many anomalies in it. Like the anomalies, for example, the northern part of the precinct was the recreation precinct. Then it became the recreation and living precinct, and it turned into towers. The living one, the recreation lost. It's the same with the town square. It's supposed to be a town square, Shimmerley Sunny, but they zoned it for 28 stories around the whole thing. And so the community lost out. So the zoning, it's not too late. The zoning could change and save it, but we've lost our recreation facilities. We need a new plan for where will they be and how will they all connect, to get the best outcomes.
I'm just conscious that it's almost 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Any last questions? This is the last question.
I'm Katie. I'm with Woden. You mentioned before the place often relies on involvement so that they feel, a sense of ownership over the space and value. So I just want to echo what you said before, in that we're really interested in collaborating and providing facilitation, being involved in this, and you highlight that community and local and living is essentially your master plan. So I think, reaching out and consulting and not just stopping at this forum would be key.
Yeah. So this is great points. This is the first step for us. Yeah. So really, we're at a point now where, I guess, as a business, we've made the decision that we're going to be investing and that we want to be continuing to make Westfield Woden as beautiful as it can be. So first step, we're here. Second steps are let's meet with the relevant parties and would love to take feedback from you around. Obviously, we've got 2 groups here in particular that we'll meet with, but others as well. And it'll be an iterative process.
Okay, so I think we'll have, lucky last one over here, okay, and then we'll move on to the Hellenic Club.
Everybody can do a shop there. The shopping experience is something new and it's vibrant, it's fantastic. We've lost it all. As far as I'm concerned, the shopping here is dreadful. I go to Belconnen, or I go to Tuggeranong. Woden is so plain and so dowdy, nobody wants to go there.
It's good feedback. Yeah, I'll respectfully disagree. Look, I'll take that as a comment. I mean, we can always, bring new concepts to market. You can always be reinvesting. We're very proud of Westfield Woden. We think that it does deliver a good product to the community. I mean, it's driven by the sales numbers, by the amount of people that come through every day. But can we do better? Of course we can. Can we invest more? Of course we can. Thank you for your feedback.
I think if it's sat in a better precinct, people might love it more, but people definitely don't love it. All right.
Thanks,
Fiona. Thanks, Fiona. Great.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't love the whole town centre, not just the whole lot. All right. Thank you very much, Adam.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
We look forward to working with you further. All right, then Dan Stewart is coming up to give the presentation on the Hellenic Club. Now, if I can get to it, Dan, this is the question, isn't it? This is always the dreaded question. Stop share. Get rid of that one.
You already had an opinion, you're out.
Didn't I?
You're exploring. So.
Go there.
Oh, yeah.
I
That's
think,
it. There we go. We'll open it again.
Let's shrink that one down a bit as well. So I've got full screen. Are you screen sharing? Oh, hang on. Adam, how did you get that to scroll by page? Perfect, thank you. Are you still live? Are you still sharing the screen? I thought you stopped sharing.
Did I share? Don't even know what's happening online. It's hopeless, isn't it? If you just go to Zoom, go there, we press share screen. There you are. There we are, we're sharing again.
All right, terrific. Thank you. All right, my name is Dan Stewart. I'm a director at Woden Planning, and I've been engaged by the Hellenic Club and Intellectual Property Group to coordinate planning and engagement for their new revitalisation plans for the car park next to the existing Hellenic Club. There's certainly some strong parallels between Adam's presentation and some of the things we're about to discuss with respect to where Hellenic's thinking is going at this stage. Both parties are long-term, have had a long-term presence in the Woden Town Centre, and both parties are looking to have a much longer-term presence in the town centre. Similarly, this is an asset that the club is looking to develop and hold on to. So this is a long-term investment for the club, and this is very much about future-proofing the club. And well, that's distracting.
Went out of there into here. That was good.
Are we still echoing? No, we're not. This is very much about the club setting itself up for the next 40 years and continuing to be a major part of not just the Woden community, but also the broader Canberra community. Hellenic Club was formed 40 years ago as a meeting place for Greek community members in the ACT. Since it was started some 40 years ago, it's grown to become a membership of 50,000 people and a meeting place for all of Canberra, not just the local Greek community. So what I'm about to share with you is, at this stage, we're pre-DA here. Where this is really just a proof of concept, and it's an opportunity to share with you the sorts of things that the Hellenic Club board and the management team are looking to bring to that precinct. It's very much a series of ideas that we are sharing with you today. Some of the concepts will look quite evolved, but that's because the architects are showing the club and their board that the ideas that they wish to bring to this location can actually be accommodated within the site. I should also say up front, this is very much focused on the existing car park next to the club. It's very much focused on the club's own land and the club's own lease. And the existing building that's on that site will be retained as part of this redevelopment process. So, in terms of what the club is looking to bring to Woden in the medium term, there is no residential plan for this site at all. It's a non-residential development. It's very much a mixed-use commercial redevelopment plan. We've got 3 levels of undercover parking, which I'll go through in more detail, a 2,000-seat theatre, a 150-room hotel, a range of entertaining food, dining, function and conferencing spaces, a commercial office building with childcare, gym and day spa, and also some multicultural and community spaces. I'll step through each of those in some detail, and then I'll show you to this point how the architects have accommodated the different uses on the site, and then really tell you about where we're planning to go to from here. The car parking that's proposed for the site, at this stage we're showing it being accommodated in a single basement and 2 podium level car parks with 800 spaces currently planned. The idea would be a smart parking system with a multitude of charging points to ensure that we're future-proofing the car park as more and more of Canberra switches from petrol to electric vehicles. Fiona. Sorry. Your laptop is frozen.
My laptop is frozen.
Yeah.
Oh, but. Whoop. Maybe it will come good. Maybe not. A second for that little thing to 12. Zoom's back now. Let's just see if we can get your presentation back.
Reduce it down a bit. So.
Not sure about restoring the page. You'll get it a second time. That's the problem. Just get rid of that. Right, let's see if I can hold up.
Okay, the second key element, and what I believe is perhaps one of the most exciting elements of the proposal, is a 2,000-seat multi-purpose theatre. Now, to put that in context, the Playhouse in Civic is 600 seats, Canberra Theatre is 1,200 seats, and the Royal Theatre at the Convention Centre is about 2,400 seats. And that includes if they're sitting on the floor at the base of the stage. So this theatre that's being proposed would be, more or less the second largest theatre in the ACT, and almost twice the size of the current Canberra Theatre. So a massive contribution to the local cultural scene, and a great opportunity to bring a range of new uses and activities to the town centre. Another important aspect of the project, and one that's near and dear to the board's heart, is creating a multicultural space to celebrate Canberra's diversity. And that's not just about the Greek community, that's about all of Canberra and all of the communities that make up the diversity that is the ACT. So this will be a shared exhibition space. It will be an opportunity for a host of other smaller clubs around Canberra who may be struggling in their existing accommodation, or maybe are coming to the end of leases or opportunities on their sites, and they need new space to meet, they need new space to celebrate their rich history, so that the Hellenic Club is offering that opportunity more broadly. Another aspect is an entertainment space. We want this to be a vibrant 7-day-a-week opportunity. We're looking at about 1,200 metres squared of new entertainment facilities. And at this stage, some of the ideas being bandied about within the club are microbrewery, sports bar, bowling, cinema, and so forth. So there really is a range of new things that are happening in and around the ACT, even within the Woden Town Centre already, and we're looking to build on that. The Agora is my second favourite, or maybe equal favourite, Ian, with the theatre. And the Agora in Greek is a gathering place. It's a place where the community used to meet and eat and drink and spend time together in groups, families, friends. The idea of the Agora in the Hellenic precinct plan is really an open plan food hall where not just the Greek community but all of Canberra will gather with a range of different food offerings, beverage offerings, and dining offerings to really have that rich diversity of experience, but also a weatherproof place that we must acknowledge, I guess, that Canberra's winters can be cold and Canberra's summers can be hot, and our autumns and spring are in between. So we're looking at an enclosed dining area that's going to offer a range of options and fully accessible off the street. A luxury hotel is another thing that we think Woden is crying out for, and we believe that there's more than enough demand for that in this part of the city. It's a stone's throw from the Parliamentary Triangle and the CBD, and of course, as Adam said, and as I'll go to in a moment, we're looking at bringing a host of additional commercial office space here, which will further underpin that demand. perfect segue. 20,000 square metres of office is another part of our proposal. This would, similar to what Adam flagged for their office site, the key would be, or the ideal would be, to attract a long-term government tenant, but we also know that there are a large number of small and medium businesses across Canberra at the moment looking for A-grade accommodation, which has really driven the vacancy rate for A-grade rentals in the office space to its lowest levels perhaps ever. We're looking at gym and health facilities as part of that office precinct, given that that's pretty much an anchor requirement for any good office A-grade accommodation these days. And of course, Carolyn, to your question before, sustainability will be at the core of the project. We are, of course, at the very beginning of our planning and design phase, but the club has set an aspiration of exceeding all minimum benchmarks with regards to Green Star and neighbours, and we look forward to working through how we can bring that to the new precinct. I'd like to stress again, please treat these as concept, because they very much are. We are in pre-DA at this stage. We haven't been to the design review panel. We've got a meeting with them in a couple of weeks. This is really the first opportunity to talk to the community about what we're bringing to this, what we're hoping to bring to this site, get your feedback on some of those proposed uses. But really, what I'm going to show you here is an option for how these particular uses and the scale that's being proposed could be accommodated on the site. It is not the final design by any stretch. What we're showing here is the foyer to the office and the entrance to the Agora, both on the ground floor. You can see that the two buildings, this is effectively the existing car park. This is the entrance that you're going to now, and that's the existing club over here. Vacant territory, owned car park over here. Moving up through the building, you've got the multi-use rooms and the first of the two podium level car parks on that first floor. Then you move into the theatre on the second floor with the other podium car park. The multicultural spaces, a rooftop garden, and then the beginning of the commercial office building. And then the rest of the building accommodating the hotel on the northern side of the site in this concept with the 150 rooms, and then the office tower to the south. This just shows the current concept from several different angles. And then, of course, you wouldn't be an architect if they didn't come up with a couple of really nice renders just to show how it might sit in context. But again, I stress and highlight that these are very much pre-concept and proof of concept. And that's
it.
That's
Okay.
it.
Thank you, Dan, for the presentation. And then I'll ask the next question. I will ask you. Just got to try and put this back onto live stream because the people on the Facebook missed it. Does it have al fresco dining outside, like street life? Does it contribute to the street life?
The current concept is what it is. We haven't done any of the detailed design for any of the ground floor playing. It's really just showing how those different uses could be accommodated on this site. The Agora is largely designed at this point as an indoor dining space, but that's certainly not to say that there wouldn't be activation right around the precinct, and you would certainly expect on the office side, facing into the new park and whatever the SLA development holds for the future to the south, you would absolutely anticipate active frontages along there.
Okay.
But again, I highlight these. We are nowhere near detailed design at this point, so this is very much conceptual.
Yeah, feedback. We want active fronts.
And it's
al fresco dining.
Heard loud and clear.
Good. Maria.
Hello, Maria. How are you? Good. Well, on behalf of Ian and his board, I say thank you very much.
And I guess, my question is very similar to Leonard's because it just looks like it's all concrete. And voilà, houses announced in Greek. And the Agora and the Greek society, both Greeks, especially al fresco. And in terms of the weather, well, you know, Greece gets up to 40 degrees and more in summer, and it was snowing last winter. So, I mean, when I, as a member, I never go to any, you know, restaurants and cafes unless I've got, you know, a meeting, an event, and I'm going there for an event. So it's so boring at the moment. And I'm not seeing that what you're presenting is going to be any better. And so I just, you know, from the point of view, I'm sure that other members are probably the same, in that if you don't pay, you know, then what would attract us to come to that kind of venue compared to going to all these outdoor cafes that you've got in other parts of the country, like, you know, Kingston Marshall, something like the shops. I cannot imagine an Agora being inside. It just doesn't make sense.
No, look, I apologise for butchering my pronunciation first and foremost, and I appreciate your feedback secondly. So, thank you.
I agree with that as well, because first of all, that land, like, you know, it's all concrete, the whole space there, more creative design of, you know, gardens, develop restaurants.
So there is, as I've said several times, this is far from detailed design. It's really just showing that the identified and desired uses can be accommodated on the site. There's been no detailed design, no landscape design, no engineering analysis. There's a very long way to go in this project. Yes.
I actually came to another meeting tonight, and I'm a resident at the Grand Central Towers. It looks like you're just basically pumping a building right in front of our view of the skyline, and you know, that's definitely not going to be something a lot of people are going to be happy about. So have you thought about residents whose community are going to be walking with that horrible looking building?
Thank you again for your feedback. As I've said, this is not a detailed design. This is a concept design.
I'd just like to add something in. You've got bigger problems than that, because that big car park between you and the Hellenic Club.
That building does.
Well, all I'm saying is that big car park between you and the Hellenic Club is on the land release program. It's zoned for 16 stories. Grand Central was zoned for 12 to 16, and it actually got 26. So you've got.
They're all going to go much higher, but because a lot of people claim they went up to like 3 or 4 floors. If you did the same thing with your development, you know, there would be less pushback. But what you've proposed is basically going to be covering a large aspect of building B of the Grand Central Towers. So
no, I absolutely acknowledge that. But as you know, to Ian's question to Adam and to Adam's response, the ACT government has, and you know, clearly like it or loathe it, prepared a master plan that for every block in the Woden town centre provides an opportunity for the individual lessees to redevelop their sites. And the developer. No, what we're asking you tonight is the sorts of uses that you would like to see brought to the Hellenic Club site.
You know, you also don't want to cover people's skylines and
But the only opportunity to bring these range of uses to the town centre is to develop taller buildings. That's the reality. You're living in a you're living in a multi-story apartment building. That is your reality. No, but you've screened out the view of the building behind you in your building, and then you don't own views in towns. No, I absolutely take your point, but I would respond by saying the Woden Town Centre Master Plan is the guiding document for every lessee in the Woden Town Centre. If you have issues with the building heights that are in that master plan, then that's an issue with the master plan. Ultimately, each lessee. No, we're asking you for your feedback on the sorts of uses that you would like in the project, and then as the design evolves, we'll be asking you for your feedback on the design. But the only way that we're going to accommodate these uses and future-proof the club is to build a building of a reasonable bulk and scale. That's the reality in a town centre, which is, at least in my view, an appropriate location for this use. I beg your pardon? Oh, I absolutely believe that. You're spot on. And there'll be plenty of people who think the opposite, but that's okay.
One of the options there. It's not like a pre-planned plan.
No, the master plan has established building heights on that site. There is a portion of the development that is proposed to go to 16 stories, but the existing club isn't being touched, and the hotel is several stories shorter.
Okay, so these concerns, how would you to the master plan?
So at the moment, we would like your feedback on the proposed uses, because we haven't started doing any detailed design. When we come back here and present a more evolved concept that picks up on all of the other constraints that apply to a more detailed building design process, take further feedback then, incorporate that feedback, and then there'll be a DA notification process where you'll have a further opportunity.
As we were saying before, the master plan does not meet our needs because every single block is for a tower, is zoned for 16 stories is the minimum that our town centre is zoned for, like everything.
But we have been trying for years. We've been saying, please don't do it. We have been trying so hard.
You want to deal and coordinate questions?
Yeah, I'll coordinate questions. Jude.
Yes, so providing feedback. And
Yes.
I think
Just go down a bit so I can hear the question.
got the message already from the room, and I would like to echo, is that we have no beating heart in Woden. We have a whole lot of blocks of concrete and town squares died. So what we'd all really like to see is a bit of life breathed back into the Woden town centre. And in your situation, sure, it all sounds great, all those things sound fabulous, we need all of those things, but it needs to be accessible to the community.
Absolutely.
Not closed off just to members. It needs to be able to engender a bit of street life, a bit of give and take so that we benefit you, you benefit us, preferably working together with all the other stakeholders and the other owners of all the different parts of the Woden area, Southern Cross, Westfield, whatever. It needs to be a whole holistic sort of outlook rather than just each person doing their own, each development, doing their own thing. So
I absolutely agree with you.
Your own situations to take care of to get some amenity going, but it would be really good if you could work together with the others and really get Woden alive, bring Woden to life again.
No, and we agree with you fundamentally.
I just want to show the zoning that we're up against here. So see around the dotted lines, the red dotted lines around Woden, that is up to 12 stories. But when it turned into the law, they all got an extra 4 stories in effect. So that's why you see 16 stories all the way around. Then Westfield up through the side here, that's 16 stories up here, up to 16 plus 4, 20 stories. So Westfield is zoned for 20 stories, the whole thing. Belco is zoned for 4. Like, why? We are being crammed. Then through the core here, this is considered the core, and this is our town square. It is up to 24, add 4, 28. So around our town square, it is zoned for 28 stories. We have been screaming blue murder about doing that to our town square. That will kill it. Sorry? Well, come and join us on the council and help us, because if you've got some sort of touch that we don't have, that we would love to access it. We've really tried so hard. Nora.
I beg your pardon? Yes, so it's on the Hellenic Club car park next to the existing club. That's correct. Yes.
Firstly, the community seems to have been consulted fairly early on, which is great. Second thing is that one of the things I liked about what you're doing, and I appreciate it's not finalised anywhere near, is the installation in the heights. single block, you've made an effort to get different shapes and different heights. And I think that's a real plus. So I'd like to see that sort of effort continue in the final plans.
Thank you.
One of the first things I felt really positive about, and an issue I've got, do not understand why, and you've got the opportunity with the Hellenic because you're starting at ground level. We're all parking underground. If we want to open up and not create concrete towers and buildings everywhere, we can put the parking underneath the ground, which you can because you're starting with that street ground. Then it opens up the buildings, even some of the office space. Like, I mean, most people when they're working, they really don't spend a lot of time looking out the windows. So put some of them underground too. You know what I mean? Like, we don't care.
Do you know
I think it's going to be that sort of perspective is not taken into account. I know I'm sort of, being very blasé about it. But if that perspective can be taken into account, put the unnecessary things down there, right, so that we can open up. So we can open up that flow through. Because if that's a beautiful design, but it's like this and it faces there, and Woden's over here.
No, it's a very fair
Do you know
point.
what I mean?
I do. Thank you.
Yeah.
one?
Because it's lovely. That theatre to bring the arts world to the central part of Canberra. So you don't have to go all the way to City or out to Belcourt.
Be good if it was like the street theatre though, wouldn't it? You know, like a.
That's amazing.
Something to think about. Our futile efforts up to now to try to put a bit more green in the area. Is rooftop gardens and landscaping, even though they may only be accessible to people. Looking from top down into more green.
No, you're absolutely right. And as I said, we don't have a landscape architect on board yet. So what you're seeing are the plywood models from Cox. So I couldn't agree more.
Catherine?
But also, all Canberra residents who live in houses cannot build a huge house on their block of land. They're forbidden from doing that. No. So why are these commercial zones allowed to fill up the block?
Doesn't leave much green space, sort of in there.
It's not the design, it's a concept. As I said, it's a proof of concept.
All right then. Can we have a concept design that's got green space then?
Sure.
Thanks. At ground level too, because I mean, I appreciate roof gardens. Roof gardens are great, but you need, you know, the vibe all happens at ground level. Yeah. Yeah.
Running across there in the master plan.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's still a good question. Thank you for the clarification. Will you still be able to trade as the existing club whilst you are developing new areas?
Absolutely. Sorry, Ian. The club will continue to trade as it does. It will be relying on parking further afield, but absolutely, the club's planning to trade through the construction. Thank you. I'll pass that on to the CEO of the Hellenic Club. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Most of them are covered in astroturf, you've got plants, they're not going to provide much benefit for greenwashing. So I think we should just be honest about it and just stop saying we've got that. There's the equivalent of green space on the green.
Nice.
I understand the property incentive. I understand move away from social.
So, sorry, it's a not-for-profit, just to be clear.
Well, I mean,
Revenue.
Okay.
It's actually the money to do a business.
Yep.
It's a business. So I think the disappointing thing here is that the scale of the building, so there are no architects that would realistically say what we're looking at here is I know you don't activate this use all the time, basically. But at the end of the day, once you get it rolled out to 4 levels, no one at pedestrian are really engaged with that. And what you wind up with there is just tunnels, canyons actually. And while this is an individual stakeholder seeking to maximise what they can on the block of land, I understand that. When we look at it cumulatively across the entire landscape, but we know sitting outside, and back to the real world, with temperatures elevating and urban heat islands, there'll be no one sitting outside in those spaces. And we can see that. You just have to go to Westfield City. But the both parts of the city go down there and it's not enjoyable places to be. That's the feedback I will provide to the club, that they are a community club, and so they need to balance what appears to be a very appealing opportunity to generate a lot of money versus their place in the community and the amenity that they're actually going to provide to them.
If you generate a lot of money out of the lease on the commercial building and the hotel and just the food and everything, how will you plough that back into the community?
Make us suck. That question.
Okay. And if this is meant for the broader community, just not the Greek community, how is the broader community represented on the board in the decision making?
I don't.
And the diversity, how is there diversity on the board to bring the whole community?
At its core, the Hellenic Club is a Greek community club. It's got 50,000 members from across the Canberra community, but the composition of the board is the composition of the board. But I wouldn't say that by having a multitude of Greek individuals on the board misrepresents the aspirations of the broader Canberra community. I don't think that's fair at all. And I think looking at the proposal in its broadest terms, with regard to the sorts of uses and activities that they're looking to bring to this site, and also the investments that the club makes into the broader community with the surplus funds that are raised, as with all community clubs. And Ian would say the same thing, and any other club representatives or members here. That's the very purpose of the clubs. The idea behind this project, and I do take your point, but I would also say, in fairness, this development falls far short of maximising the potential of the site, and that's a big part of what we've sought to do here, even in concept form, is to show a diversity of built form and a variation in heights across the site, and you'll see that as the design evolves. There's no doubt about it. But it's a challenge. It's a challenge to strike that balance between moving away from the revenue that the clubs have traditionally relied on from poker machines, which is very much where the policy of the day is heading with this government and perhaps with all governments. So the clubs have to come up with alternatives. They've got land. They're looking at development opportunities. I heard you mention that there's a master plan underway for the site that we're standing on. And in fact, there have been other developments by other clubs to that very end. It doesn't change the fact that the club is a community club, making investments into the broader Canberra community and providing a mix of uses on the site for all Canberrans. And that's what we're seeking to achieve here.
Caroline.
I know that both governments were saying to have offices as part of them. I also know that the Alexander and Albemarle building, and I still hear of the MLC Tower and renamed the Lovett Tower, both the quite viable offices turned into residential areas. Have you done the work to work out that you will actually all will have tenants for the office?
Look, I think, Carolyn, it's an absolutely fair question, and ultimately, the office wouldn't be built if the demand wasn't there. I'm sure that Centre have done a similar piece of analysis as the club has done, looking at the current office landscape, where those leases are up to, the state of those existing buildings. And again, in fairness, A&A and some of those other offices were of C grade, I would argue at best, as office buildings, and where they could be adaptively reused as residential, they were, but where they couldn't, those old C and D grade buildings are being knocked down and redeveloped. To this point, most of that redevelopment has been residential. What Centre and what Hellenic are proposing are at this stage, certainly for Hellenic, non-residential developments. And we hope that this is the sort of thing that the Community Council has been arguing for, which is a range of non-residential uses that are bringing new activity and new community amenity and a whole host of other things to the centre, to the Woden Town Centre, not just a place where people live, travel away to go to work and then come back to eat dinner and go to bed.
I'm not sure that, you know, when the community clubs were first set up in the 70s and they were a place that like-minded people could come together, whether it was, you know, cultural or sporting or what have you, that it was intended that they grew to be so big that, you know, tens of thousands of people are forced to go there and become members of the Hellenic Club, because that's where all the amenity is in the big clubs, and we are forced to have multiple membership of clubs because there's no public amenity that we can go to. And I'm not sure that that was exactly how things were supposed to be at the beginning, because we did have public amenity and the clubs were smaller and they were for the like-minded people of, you know, of those objectives. And now they have just taken over at the expense of all our sporting facilities and everything. And I just, look, I'm sorry, but it looks to me like it's just empire building. Sorry.
I don't know off the top of my head. What's the 260?
Okay. So 800 is fantastic. It's a good start, but you've got to sit down and seat theatre. How many people in seats are you going to have in the offices?
Well, we'll have light rails, so.
We'll all go there on the rail.
You're increasing demand for that space, but not providing.
No, I'm saying that Woden will have some of the best public transport in Canberra. You've got 4,000 apartments. Can I have a bit of quiet? I can't hear what's being said. Okay, and we're providing 800 car parks on site. There are a host of other public car parks available. The events at the sorry, can I answer the question?
Again, I won't be coming to Woden.
No, but there's a host of public car parks in the town centre already. If the theatre is providing predominantly, as I was about to say, if the theatre is predominantly a nighttime activity, which it generally is, or on weekends, those large multi-storey car parks already in the town centre won't be full of office workers, they'll be empty. And also you'll have the best public transport system in the ACT, bringing people who do have access to public transport.
I drive to Woden to do my grocery shopping after hours. When I drive to go there and do my shopping after hours, well, the shopping centres are years ago.
I'm putting it on the ground car.
We're putting 800 car parks in.
But, you know, with underground parking, I think underground parking is fine if you've got an active town centre. But what is developing is that Westfield, everyone goes under, into Westfield and out again. They don't hit the streets. Your one, they will go in under, they will go into the Hellenic Club, they will go back down to their cars and they're gone. They will not go on the streets. And sorry, Ian, but the same here. We come in, we come into the club, we'll go back to our cars and we're gone. The streets become devoid of life. And this is our major problem. And the people feel unsafe on the streets. And this is why people don't really like Woden, because there's no street life, there's no activity, apart from your nice eat street that you put in. That is something, but you walk around and have a look. You might get a space cafe over at that side. You know, scattered, there's no beating heart. And that's what we want the town square to draw people in, to be a beating heart that then has tendrils out of activity, you know, up and down the streets, the internal streets. But doing these massive things that suck people in under and then they go, it's just killing our vibe. It's killed our vibe. which is not, it's not Westfield so much, it is just the whole thing, the whole town centre. People just don't like it because there is no vibe. Okay.
My question, you said that the only public on profit, yet you're making all this investment, obviously you want a return. I mean, not to kind of put you in have to expose me, but why don't you use this amount of revenue for non-profit? And why do you need so much, I guess, rentals or flats or hotel rooms for non-profit?
The business model is designed to continue providing the range of services to the community that the club has always provided. And in order for that to continue moving forward, the club has to look at alternative revenue sources. And that's investing in the sort of infrastructure that you're looking at on the screen right now. Because they can't, traditionally they've relied on other sources of income that are just simply unsustainable.
So I'd be really curious to know where you pump your money. Obviously, I have had a look at your annual report and I have had a look at where the money goes. Primarily it goes to Greek things, Greek education, a Greek soccer thing, the Woden Valley Soccer Club, that's great. Some to Marist, some to rugby. But outside of that, it's just rats and mice. It primarily, maybe this is an out of line thing to say, but it seems to me you suck the broader community in and then you redirect the money back to the Greek community.
Or you build massive properties.
Like where are our basketball people? What money are they getting out of this? Our netball people, our hockey people, our swimming people. Where are our community clubs getting the benefit of all this?
Really green gardens as in dirt, which actually has insulation.
Anyway.
This company is acting on what the committee,
Yeah.
the committee of the club chose them to do.
Yes.
So really you're regressing the wrong person.
Well, that's my feedback.
Every use on that site, you talk about maximising the upside.
Yeah,
We
I
don't-
haven't said anything against it.
No, look, I'm
thank
just
you.
trying to say that we're talking about, you look at the development down the old trading site there, 800 apartments there. That's something, when you start doing this exercise, that's what you look at. How can you maximise the use on the site? Then you go back to, well, what do we exist for? We're a community organisation. Every single use that we put in there is for the community. When you talk about, oh, it's only for members, well, we've got 50,000 members and it'll cost you $8 to join. Every single person in Canberra has got access to everything on that site. The commercial part, the commercial building, that is the commercial reality of actually doing this. Right? We can't talk about the massive revenues and how much money do you need. Once you start putting some numbers to building this and providing all these things for the community, but the Hellenic Club, Southern Cross Club, all the clubs, we don't put money in our back pockets. We can't make massive profits, and all we can do with the money is reinvest it into our facilities for the benefit of our members and the wider community. That's all we can do with it. So we're providing entertainment options, food and dining, theatre, gyms, daycare, health, fitness. And one of the things that's come out strongly is the street activation. And Jane was talking about, well, everything's going down and up. Well, that's not the case. We've got thousands of people working across the road from us, and every single day we have streams and streams of people come back and forth from the offices. This is a facility for them to use. They come and they eat and they drink after work and they celebrate, all those sort of activities.
Yeah, but of an evening, like after work finishes, like they're public servants 9 to 5, they go over to your club. But after sort of office hours, there's not a lot of activity on the streets. I mean, they might be walking across it.
This is all conceptual, right? So when you talk about activating, I hear you when you're talking about alfresco dining. I want to have an alfresco dining feel about it. But again, we will activate pretty much all those street frontages. They will be activated. Are we going to have restaurants outside? Well, it won't work in Canberra. Won't work in Canberra. You've seen it down at Kingston Foreshore. There's one business in Kingston Foreshore that's been there since the start. Everyone else has rolled over and there's new businesses coming because it's winter time. You're sitting outside. You need to be able to provide that amenity for people to enjoy it
give it our alfresco feel. Yeah, sure, there may be some areas where you can sit outside and dine for a couple of months of the year. But it's not going to be a clear principle of how we design it because it simply doesn't stack up
Well, what
financially.
there is, I mean, there is alfresco dining in Canberra, and in fact, Tyrant Chain has got a policy to encourage alfresco dining.
Yeah.
See, you know, here, why couldn't you put the theatre at ground level so it was like the street theatre, you know, and there was, and everybody could just come into the theatre
No,
from.
Dan said it 100 times. This is how we could sort of one way of getting everything on the site. What do we want to put on the site? We've got a big list of things. Can we actually do it? That's one way of doing it. And
Yeah.
that's where we are at the moment.
Okay. Well, it'd be nice just to be. I like the street theatre. It's got a bit of character. And here we're going to be absorbed into a big.
Every single thing in there is for everyone can use.
Building back, put trees on there, people will sit outside. You don't have that down at the foreshore, you've got it in Marika and other places. Those trees will stop the wind, they will stop the heat. That will make it livable. Once again, move the building back.
All right, last questions and then we will wrap it up. Catherine, last, you're the lucky last.
Well, that's what we're here to listen and to understand the sorts of things that you're looking for on the site. So to the extent that we can accommodate those uses within the broader precinct as the design evolves, we're happy to do that. But no, sorry, with regard to the onus, that there are no rules, particular rules applying to that site as it currently stands. The government's planned a strip park on the other side of Matilda Street within its current master plan, and then the SLA will release the bulk of that site in the next couple of years.
Robin had his hand up. Sorry, Robin hasn't had a question yet.
Sorry,
Yeah.
just a quick comment. There is, I think government is very important in the whole relationship of different government proposals. There's at least one case in Canberra where the government did reduce the heights after the fact. They looked at it and said, no, that's wrong. And I think we should just dismiss what the government does some of these things.
Yeah, we need to.
Pat, okay, you're the lucky last.
I think what we're doing isn't just building a huge block of apartments or a huge block of offices. What we're looking at is a club that, from what I can hear, is making a genuine intent to try and bring some facilities back into the town centre. And I think that should be applauded. And if they continue to work and listen to small comments like some street trees and things like that, they are willing to listen. They're quite apparent and they are willing to be a bit different. And I think that we should put all of the ills of what's already happened back on a club which is trying very hard to give quite a lot back to the community.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Fiona.
Yep, just whip it out.
It's been judicious. Thank you.
There you go. All right then. So that's where we'll be in the future. Now, Marissa, did you have any answers to those questions last month? No? Marissa Patterson, our MLA.
Hello. Is there any online thing or?
No, I think it's gone.
It's gone. Okay, no worries. I just wanted to start by saying what an amazing opportunity this meeting is, in that we have Westfield, Woden, Hellenic and Southern Cross Club here. So as has already been said,